Welcome to today's show. My name is Yanni, and as usual, I've got my precious wife Judy with me. Welcome, Judy.
Yes, thank you, Yanni.
Yeah, you're
Great
very
to do
welcome.
another show with you.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, thank you that we can be together again, and thank you for being here with us. And this is a continuation of our show yesterday. And yesterday, Judy shared a few very thought-provoking, but also powerful and practical things with us, how we can grow our business, but how it can impact our lives, and just in general, how we can use creativity to move forward.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Judy, if you can just recap a little bit on that, I'll recap on what I shared.
Okay.
And then we will get into
the next section.
Yeah, into today's section. So this is a continuation, and you'll be able to put the two parts together, and as we go along, we'll just build on that as well. Okay, thank you, Jude.
Thank you, Yanni, and welcome. And please go back and listen to yesterday, because today I'm just going to give you a little bit of recap, and then we're going to get on to part two. So what I have started speaking about was something that I really experimented with myself with. I'm a creative type of person, and not only do I create content, but I create a lot of other things in my life too. And I've come to realize that I do a lot of things intuitively. And the intuition process is very important, because when I began to look at it, I realized that a lot of people are doing it, but some people need to know how to think creatively and act creatively. Now, what's really fascinates me about this topic is that doing some more research for the show, I realized in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, a lot of corporations actually taught their staff to become creative thinkers.
That's interesting.
And by them teaching, like Google is actually one of those people who taught their staff to be creative thinkers. And by them learning that new skill, they were able to create a lot more products to meet the marketplace, to stay innovative, and to also balance a bigger, broader product line, and knowing how to launch and stay on top of things. So those things that they have learned, I've learned, and now I'm sharing them with you, because I want you to learn them too. When you understand how they work, then you can really tap into your potential and develop that. Okay, so the first thing is to generate new ideas. There's 4 thoughts. First, you are an explorer. While you're exploring, you are looking for new ideas, new concepts, new sounds, new images. You're looking for something that's really deeper inside of you, because you're looking for an experience. So that's the exploring stage. When you feel like you've had enough of that and you go into the artist stage, now the artist side of you take what you have been seeing and look for new ideas that you can match or incorporate or twist or turn, or piece here and piece there. You're piecing together something. You don't have a picture of what you're doing, but in your mental creativity, you're doing something. And sometimes that's why it's so tiring, because mentally you're working hard. From the artist stage, you go on to become what we call as a judge stage. Mentally, in the judge stage, what you're doing is you're actually analyzing everything. You're analyzing, is this the right thing? Is this the right project? Will it work for me? What if the market is not ready? How can I change this around to fit the market? You are making decisions internally whether this is a merger for your product, or an idea for your business, or a problem solving. So you're making a lot of decisions internally. And the last stage, step number 4, is the point where you get to become the warrior. And when you're in the warrior stage of development, or critical thinking, or creative thinking, you're actually beginning to take action. So now you have explored, you have put the pieces together, you've done your critical thinking, and now you're actually doing something. So then you take your idea and you start executing it. And those are the 4 stages that a lot of people use. Business for sure, corporations for sure. And I do remember, which I didn't mention yesterday, that Google actually allowed their staff to play. Not just 1 hour here and there, but they had playgrounds and they had games and all kinds of funny things happening to them to help them to stimulate creativity to form more products for Google. So that's a little recap of yesterday.
Yeah, thanks, Judy. That's great. What I also shared with you yesterday is that how Judy and I come up with some of these ideas. I sort of go on my own because I usually wake up very early in the morning. So I go and sit and I read and I meditate and I read the Bible. And because all these principles that we're sharing with you are based on scripture, it's godly principles. And that's why it's important for us to share it with you so that you can use these principles and apply it in your business, in your life, and in your families as well, so that you can move forward. Because we sometimes think, and we've been through religious thinking and through religious input, we've been made to think that the Bible is something separate and it's religion and you can't. But the Bible is really, it's almost like a manual that God gave us. It's a conversation that he had with people, and those thoughts were written down so that we can use those principles and those laws in nature and throughout our lives, so that can govern us. And what I shared with you yesterday is Judy and I, every morning, we have a mastermind, just the 2 of us. And I encouraged you yesterday, if you do not have a mastermind, get the person that you can really relate to. If you're married, your husband or your wife, get together. And even if it's just for a half an hour, and just get a session and where you just share ideas, and you will be amazed at the creative ideas that come from that, because it's as if it stimulates, and it's as if it just
energizes you.
Energizes you, and the creative
you get to
juices
put out your thoughts.
Yes, and the creative juices just flow even more from that. And then from these 4 ideas that Judy shared with us, which is sometimes we don't always think about it in this light, but it's important that we sometimes just look back and see where we are coming from. Because when we realize where we're coming from, remember what I said to you, there are patterns that are formed in our lives. And these patterns sometimes form cycles. And if it's a negative cycle and it's a cycle that needs to be broken and stopped, then it's important that we do that. But if we don't look back and realize where we're coming from, or what these recurring things in our lives are, which is not beneficial to us to move forward, then we are going to fall into the same trap again. And that's why that is so important for us to understand. And where I took these concepts from is also from scripture, and it's from a man called Daniel. Gideon. And at the time, they were really, really oppressed. And all the enemies around them, they would gather around them in their hundreds of thousands, I think, because scripture says that even the camels, there were so many camels that you couldn't even count the camels. They couldn't be numbered. And they would come and they would destroy their cattle, their sheep, and they would send all the animals and the camels that they brought with them. They would destroy the crops as well of the Israelites. But why did that happen? We think they God brought this on them. No, they thought that, but the moment they started crying out to God and realizing, but we don't like living like this because we don't have anything. We have to go and live in caves and stuff, and we have to protect everything that we have. We don't have enough food. We don't have enough anything. They couldn't travel because they didn't have animals. They couldn't really plow because they didn't have animals.
What a predicament. Sounds real.
Yes,
So
it's
real like
almost like in
today.
the situation where we are today. I think that's why it's so important that Judy and I can share
Go
this.
back in history.
Because, and anyhow, so the moment they started crying out to God, God in his, because he's such a loving God and loving Father, contrary to what we sometimes believe, we think he just sits there and he just wants to whack us left, right, and center if we step out of line. That's not who he is.
Mm-hmm.
He is strict. He's got his laws, but he's a very, very loving God. So the people cried out to him and he answered them. And how did he answer them? He sent someone to them. He sent a prophet to them to tell them where they're coming from, just to remind them, where are you coming from? What are the good things that maybe your parents instilled in your life that you can take today and that you can build on? So that's the first thing that they were reminded of. And then the Lord said, these are all the things that I gave you. And I told you, do not have any other gods in front of me. Now, why does God do that?
Mm-hmm.
Again, so that we are protected.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember what we said yesterday, laws, when we live in the constraints of those laws, in the limitations, what we see as limitations of those laws, we actually are free. But if say the people around you do not know that they shouldn't steal, although they know they shouldn't steal, but they come and they take all your stuff, that's not going to be a nice environment to live in. And so that's why laws are there. It's not to harm us or to limit us, but it's actually to help us to live free within the constraints of those laws. And that's the first thing that God did. And so when he explained that, then he came and he appeared to this man Gideon, and that's what we're going to go into after Judy shared with you and expanded on where we started yesterday. So the important things are, know where you're coming from, and don't make the same mistakes, things that can harm you. Don't make those same mistakes and let it start recurring or keep on recurring in your life. We have to block those things. Judy, now over to you.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Wow. So read the history book, right? The moral of the stories, read the history book.
Yeah, we have to go back. Sometimes we don't want to because we think it's just bad stuff. But I've got a vision board, but I call it a landmark thing. Judy knows about that. And all the good things in my life that happened, I took pictures of that and I put it up on a vision board so I can see it. And every time when I look at it, I notice something else. And for example, if you look, this little finger was part of it is cut off. But it was so miraculous that my whole hand wasn't taken off. It was just snapped off. And some of my fingers, there was no skin. And I could have lost my entire hand, but all I lost that. So that's a landmark in my life, just to remind me of God's goodness and how he protected me at that time.
That's good. A vision board is good. A vision board is good. I recommend that to everyone.
Yeah.
Not the finger, but the vision or the landmark is also very good. That's biblical. Okay, so now we're going to go on to part 2. So I've shared with you all the good aspects about what the explorer does, what the artist does, what the judge and the warrior do. So now the important thing now in this section is to remember that the puzzle has to fit together well. It has to fit together. Otherwise, you're going to have a piece here and a piece there, and you're not going to know. You're going to get very confused because sometimes when we're doing things, we don't understand what the whole process is. So we try to juggle too many things and get disoriented. So the troubleshooting part is just as important as the first side. So why I call it troubleshooting is because we don't think in a straight line. It's just human nature. We think of different things in different ways because certain things will stimulate something, and then we'll look at that, and then something else will pop up, and then we'll look at that, and then tomorrow will come, and it's a different thing. So we need to understand that when we are in certain stage, stay with the stage until you have found what you're looking for. When you're exploring for new ideas through websites or social media or blogs or in books, vision boards, all of that, just keep looking until you feel, okay, I've got this. That's what I'm looking for. I've got these pieces. And if you want to even take a snapshot as a reminder of what you saw, you can do that. So you'll have it for the next part, because the explorer stage is unique as all the others, because once you start going into the artist stage, then you will want to remember the artist only puts the pieces together. The artist, just to look at it like this, a stained glass artist, they have a picture, but then they have to take colors and shapes and textures and pieces and put it together. So that's what the artist stage will do. So how does that apply when you're creating content or you're trying to solve a problem? Many times you don't have the answer. So you need to break up your pattern of thinking. You need to break your routine or the habit so you can start getting new internal grooves. And that, because the moment you break it up, then you start allowing new things into your mind. Then new abstract begins to form. And because it's abstract, you don't know what to do with it. So you let it stay in your mind until at some point it starts to come together. And it seems kind of peculiar, but that's what you want. You want abstract pieces, dotted lines. You want lines linear. You don't want all squares and circles, but you want slides and angles and all of that. So that's very important. So as you're going to go ahead and explore, just do the job of exploring. Don't try to be the judge. Don't try to be the executor, the warrior. Don't try to be the artist. Just do one thing at a time. And when you're satisfied with what you're looking for, then you move on to the next part. And that's important because that's where the confusion begins to happen, because you feel like you're wasting your time and you want to get on to the next step, but you can't go to the next step if you don't have the whole picture together. And that's usually why I recommend to people, give yourself some time after each process, a day or two, a break, give your mind some rest so your mind can do the work it needs to figure things out. Because if you don't give yourself that space, then you might end up going back and reverting to what you knew. And then you didn't come up with a new idea, a new solution. You didn't solve your problem. I think we all get into that. So that's why this process is so important. And if you're in the judging stage and you're judging everything you're doing, then you're not going to progress to the warrior stage, because the warrior won't know what to do. And then the warrior will just keep going back the way it was, things were done in the past. So you've got to also get your the process. That's what I just explained. So the process has got to be right. Then the thinking is also, you have to have it right. So what do I mean by your thinking? Because we all think. Because when you're thinking of new ideas and new concepts, you don't want to have the same, how can I say this? You're thinking, you've got to be open-minded. Let's say it like that. You got to be open-minded to allow things to come to you without trying to put it in where it should be. So just stay open-minded. Another aspect that's in the troubleshooting is to, when you get stuck, And getting stuck is big because sometimes people just get stuck in the research and they don't progress to the artist. They don't start putting pieces together. And if you're stuck anywhere, a lot of people cannot progress to the final stage, which is the warrior stage, and there's no action. So there's a gap. So what you find is people get stuck in the research, but they don't know what to do with it. They know they're looking for something or they're trying to make something work, but they want to move from the explorer to the warrior without filling in the blanks. And I must say, you have to recognize where you are at the process, but also the critical part here is to be a good judge. And most of us forget to judge. And what I mean by judge is that you got to be critical of what you're doing. And I find this with a lot of visionaries. We tend to see things further down the road than what the market is actually ready for. So we can create content, we can create pictures, we can create music and all of that. But Steve Jobs did that, in fact. He created the phone first.
iPhone.
The
Actually, first did the iPad.
The iPad.
But the time was not ready for the iPad.
Right.
And then they realized that they first have to introduce the phone, the iPhone, and that's how they actually started opening up the market.
Right. So he did that. Whether it's intuitively probably is because he never went to school for those things. So when he did the phone, people wanted something mobile, and it made them wanting to learn to use it because it was something that they needed. Whereas the iPad, well, you can't do much with an iPad, so that's why the phone was thing. So that's the part of being the judge. You have to know what the market is ready for, what the demands are. What can you do to make people's life easier? Is it going to be cost effective? How much time do you want to put into this? And then you just kind of looking at your time and all of that. So that's another thing where people can get stuck. And two more things here. Okay, so the rules are: the first person you need to be when you want to create a new concept, a new idea, to solve a problem, to be a visionary of products, you have to learn to be the explorer. The second one is you need to be the artist. And if you think about the stained glass artist or a painter or a musicians, how they have to piece things together, that's the artist stage. Then you learn to be the judge. And I think if you think of Steve Jobs, that will be a good indicator there because he did that, the most massive selling product on the market there. And then the last stage is the warrior. And when you're in the exploring stage, remember, your only task is to do the research. The only task. When you're in the artist stage, your only task is to turn your idea into a concept. So you put the pieces together, the stained glass artist. And when you're in the judging stage, all you do is evaluate, be cost effective is evaluation. And in the warrior stage, your only thing to do is to take action. And that's my part of this.
Oh, great. Thank you, Judy. You know, as Judy is speaking, I just thought of something, and I think this is important. So please make a note of what I'm going to share with you now. Now, I used to be very guilty of what I'm going to share with you now. And
guilty?
It's to
let me hear.
It's to overwork. I thought, and I did that. I even recently did it. We were busy with a project, and I think I worked until 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. So I just pushed through. I just wanted to get it done. Yes. But you know what I realized, and I just admitted to you that I sometimes violate this. But when we are reminded of this concept of rest, then we realize that we cannot always go, because they're basically two things. But the concept, what I want you to take note of, and even make a note of that. Write it down. Take a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper and please write this down. Rest means recreation. That's really the meaning, the original meaning of rest, where Jesus came and he said, if you work hard and you are laden with burdens and stuff, come to me and I will give you rest. And then he goes on and he says, so that you can have peace in your life as well. So that rest, when you go and look at the original meaning of that word, it means to recreate. It means recreation. And when I saw that, I realized, my goodness, we want to create something, but we clutter our mind, clutter in a good sense maybe, or if I just keep on going, I don't allow my mind to rest. And so that these pieces, if you look at it as pieces of a puzzle to be put together to actually form the picture that you want. And if we do not rest, then we don't see the full picture. And some of these pieces that might not or shouldn't be in the picture might be in the picture.
Right.
So that is amazing to me. So what is the word create? So Judy just explained to us what we do when we create something, when we come up with ideas. But if you do not rest, if you do not allow your mind to recreate things, or your mind to be recreated as well, then we lose out on many things. So please remember that. I think that's a very important concept.
Very
important concept.
That's why you become a zombie after 48 hours of no sleep.
Yeah.
Because your mind is kind of interlocked.
Exactly. And you just go on and on. There's another principle that I can share with you with that. It's called the hungry chicken effect, but I'm not going to share it with you now. You have to come back another time because we need to move on. So from what Judy just shared with us and what I shared with you yesterday, as we connected the concepts that she shared with you, and how we have to go back and then look and see and identify these cycles, these patterns that has been built up in our lives. Now, the next step then is when we look at Gideon, now God sent an angel to Gideon. So this angel appeared to Gideon, and he said to Gideon the following. He said to him, "You mighty man of valor, God is with you." And that startled him. And I think it would have startled you as well, and me, if I just think about it. All of a sudden, someone appears in the room where you sit.
A bit tall.
It's maybe a big guy or whatever. And so this angel appears to Gideon, and he tells him this. And while Gideon was actually busy, he was having some wheat that he was threshing, and he in a wine press, because he was hiding this wheat in a wine press to hide it from the Midianites. Because remember what we said, they basically didn't have food and stuff, so they had to be creative to get food for themselves and so on. So the little bit of wheat that he had to thresh it in the wine press so that the enemy forces wouldn't detect it there. And so many people would say, yeah, but Gideon was hiding in the wine press. He was not hiding. It's not what's written there. It says he was hiding the wheat. He was threshing the wheat, and he had the wheat there to hide the wheat from the enemy, so that the enemy wouldn't take it away from him. So that's just a piece of information which I think is important anyhow. So Gideon was not a coward. Many people deem him as a coward because they say he hid there. He did not hide there. He was busy there while the enemy was around them, and he was producing food for him and his family. Anyhow, so the moment he heard that God is with him. Now remember what I said, we have to look back. Immediately Gideon looked back and he said, but wait a second. If God is with me, why are all these circumstances then against me and against my family and against my nation? So he must have known, his parents must have told him and shared with him where they come from. So he knew all the miracles that God did in their lives in days gone by. So he knew that, but he didn't see it. And he says, but where are these things? How can you say God is with us and all these things are happening with us? How can that be true? So he was questioning it. So I would have questioned them as well, and I'm sure you would have as well if your circumstances looks different. And this is also important. We look many times at our circumstances, and according to the circumstances, decide whether we're going to do something or whether we're not. And we're not supposed to do that. But we'll get to that in a while. And then the next thing that happened, Gideon said to this angel, but, where are these things? But the angel didn't even listen to that. He didn't answer Gideon on that because he already heard from a prophet why these things happened to them. So he didn't even answer it. The next thing that he said to him, he said, you know what? You are going to destroy all these enemies as one man.
Wow.
So he said to him, you mighty man of valor, you mighty strong man. And Gideon said, who, me? I cannot do that. And just think of your own life. Don't you sometimes have excuses when someone comes to you and say, listen, I want you to do this. No, oh no, I cannot do this. I'm not good enough. And that's exactly what Gideon did. He went and he said, no, but I cannot. I'm the smallest in my family. Our tribe is the poorest. So immediately he started comparing himself with others. And that's one of the big things that you and I many times do when we look around us at the circumstances and I say, no, I cannot do it. I'm not good enough. Because it's not the truth. Because what you have on the inside of you and what I have on the inside of me is unique.
Yeah.
God placed it there because other people need what you have, what each one of us has, because we like a body. So that's why that is so important. And then Gideon said, but, how can I do this? And again, the angel didn't even answer him on that. He just said, you will destroy the enemy. You will overcome the enemy as one man. And immediately, Gideon knew there's certain rules. Remember what I said in the beginning? There are guidelines that you and I have to live within. And immediately Gideon knew this is a person that this angel, he is of let's call it a higher rank than him. So he has to present something to him. He has to give something. And that's why Judy and I are even doing these things. We're giving out this content to you so that you can use it in your life. Whatever you do with it is your decision. But we have to, what we have and what we use to develop our products and that we generate income for us, our business, we give out freely so that you can receive it. What you do with it is what you decide to do with it. I trust that you will take it and really apply it. Anyhow, so Gideon knew this and he said to the angel, will you please wait here so that I can go and prepare a present, a gift for you? And he said, I will wait. But what he also requested or demanded from this angel, he said, will you give me a sign that I really know this is God that is speaking to me? And he said, I will wait here. So Gideon went and he got a young goat and he slaughtered the goat and he took some flour, he made unleavened bread and he brought it. And he asked for a sign, but he got two. So the angel said to him, take this stuff and put it on this rock. He didn't eat it because he's an angel. He doesn't need this food. And he took his staff and he touched the rock. And immediately fire sprang up from this rock and it consumed this stuff. And immediately the angel was gone. So those were the two signs. So I encourage you, if you're unsure of something, ask God to show you that you are moving in the right direction. Because He's for you. He wants you to succeed. He wants you to do the things in your life. And that's where I'm going to stop with Gideon, because these few things is just to connect it with what Judy shared with you, so that you can see from the things that she shared with you and from Scripture how God wants you and I to succeed, how He wants us to expand, how He wants us to multiply and be prosperous and be wealthy, so that He can do through us what He wants to do. And just the last little note on that, on this wealth part. And you may not understand it now, but I will explain it in future shows. The wealth is not just for me. Yes, it's for me and for my family and for my children. Absolutely. But we get this wealth so that God can use that wealth through us to impact other people's lives. That's really why He does it. He wants to bless people, but He cannot do it Himself. He's not going to let money rain out of heaven. He's using us, and He's using you to bless other people. So that's how these things operate.
Good story.
Thank you, Judy.
Welcome.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you,
Very
Judy,
welcome,
for sharing these with us. So please, if you need to go and listen to this message again, listen to it again. But make these principles that we're sharing with you. Don't just think when you take it at face value, even if you're very serious with it, don't think that you can just take it and go and implement it and it's just going to work like magic. It's not. You have to take these concepts. You have to go and work with it. You have to make it your own. And only then will it really produce in your life.
That's true. You always have to make everything your own, personalize it to see how it fits for you. Because not everything you're learning will fit for you.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not for now. Some things are for later. You learn now, but it's for later.
It's almost as if we customize it for our own life and our own circumstances and how, with our own personalities and everything.
Experiences are all different.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Judy.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for being with us in the show again. And we trust that this meant something to you. Thank you for being with us. We're looking forward to seeing you in the next show. Have an awesome day.